guys? This is RACE22 podcast. I would call it radio, but we're not live, and that's kind of what we're going to reserve that moniker for. But we're back here. I'm in the plush RACE22 headquarters here in Copper Hill, Virginia. I got Roger Johnson on the line from, I guess, Mooresville. I don't know. You said you were living in the hood. I'm not really sure where you're at, so you can tell us.
Mooresville. Yeah, I'm still in Mooresville.
Okay.
In Mooresville.
And I want to give, before we go too far, I want to give a shout out. You heard that music as we were coming in, the intro there. That is a friend of the show, DMB Dope. That song's called, and I thought it was perfect. The song's called Getting Back. So I thought that was perfect because we are getting back to business here at RACE22 with this RACE22 podcast. Roger, man, it's good to be back, sorta here.
Ish, right? Ish.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here with you, buddy. I'm happy. I think we're gonna all be all right. I think we'll keep working hard at what we're all doing, and we'll take this little time and spend it with our families and do some things, and we'll all be back to the racetrack together soon.
Well, I mean, with that said, what exactly have you been doing?
Man, you set me up right there. It's a bad part that a lot of the viewers don't know that you and I are friends and talk on a daily basis. But we built a couple things. I got to tell you this: that we've come in and we are on a lockdown in North Carolina, so we as late model soccer guys are not essential personnel, but we've done everything so that our customers can get anything that they need. So we've been dibbling a little bit at this shop. We've come up with a pretty cool little 3-screen simulator for the iRacing deal after Langley goaded me to death that we needed to do something, and we've done something on that. You'll see some things on Facebook for it coming soon, and to be real honest, we've been checking off the honey-do list. My wife's got me. I've shoveled 7.5 tons of rock so far, so that's it. I'm doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's probably going to put you out of commission for the rest of the year.
Dude, I can barely walk. I can barely walk now. It's not that. I'm fat and old. You don't have to tease me.
I understand. And I want to, say this before we get too far into the show in case somebody's listening to this 10 years from now and goes, what the hell are these guys talking about? Of course, it's 2020, man. It's the worst year in the history of the world, at least since I've been alive. We're completely shut down due to the coronavirus. The COVID-19 has got us all on lockdown, basically. The world has stopped revolving somewhat. Only essential businesses are operating. You can go to the grocery store and hang out with 5,000 of your closest friends, but you can't go to the racetrack and do the same. So that's where we're at today. So I don't think I don't think you've seen a race this year. I know you went to a race, but I don't think you actually stayed for it. So, and I haven't been to a race this year. No. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
That's why people love you.
No, but am I factual?
I love you too. No, I stayed. It's okay. You can bust my chops. I stayed. Yeah. But anyway,
I think you were eating, prime rib or something at your house while they were racing.
I probably was eating prime rib. I like to cook. I'm a chubby guy. I like to cook and work. That's it.
I understand.
Yeah, listen, I can't wait to get back racing.
I haven't been to a race.
My customers are yearning to go to the racetrack, and that for me is very hurtful that I can't help them and do it. And like I said, we've tested about as much as we can. Locally, a lot of places have stopped a lot of testing.
Right.
And so I think we do all we can do to just keep everybody in a good position, and we keep moving forward as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, let's kind of talk about that a little bit. The testing, some racetracks are going wide open testing. I mean, or at least compared to others. I mean, I think, and I'm not going to mention them by name. I'm not interested in that.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not trying to throw them under the bus if they're not supposed to be testing, which I don't know that they're not. I don't know their situations. So, but some tracks are testing like crazy. Others are completely shut down. Which is, a weird situation. For me, this was, a year where we were going to do, 8, 9, 10 events, at Franklin County. Canceled the first one the day before this started. Hindsight being 2020, I probably would have rolled on with that event despite a little bit of rain and cold. But it is what it is. But here we are. A month later. Basically, I think we've been in this lockdown for almost a month. We're heading toward it anyways.
It seems like a month, right? If nothing else, it seems like a month.
Well, it seemed like a month 2 days in. So now it's like been 14 years. But
That's it.
So some tracks are testing, some are not, which is good. I think some of these tracks need to be testing. I mean, really, we all need to be testing. I need to probably have some testing going on at Franklin County. I kind of got scared. 2 weeks ago, I think we were supposed to have a test, and putting all my cards on the table here. We were supposed to have a test on a Saturday, and I had 3 or 4 cars coming, and then a buddy of mine sent me a message, and he goes, "Hey man, that there's a coronavirus case within a mile of the racetrack, right?" And I'm like, "Nope, I don't know that, and nope, we're not testing because I'm not taking a chance of somebody getting something because of my negligence." So I shut her down, and but now here we are. It's not. And I don't want to say something stupid here, but it's not spreading in our area like it is in New York City or Detroit or some of the bigger places where people are just dying like crazy, and I feel so bad for the families and the people that are going through this. Such a tough time and such a you're fighting as the president says in his briefings, he says it's the invisible enemy, and it really is. I mean, you don't know when you're going to catch it. You can't see it coming. It's not like being in war with somebody and there might be bullets coming your way. I mean, this right here, you can't see it and you don't know what the heck's going on. So it's been really tough for everybody, and especially tough on the people who have come into contact with it and have got it, and the families that are dealing with that, because I guess you can't be around each other, and it's just a weird time, man. Here locally, I don't know about you because you're in a bigger area than I am, but here locally, if I go by the hospital here, it looks like it's completely closed because there's nobody there. We don't have that many coronavirus cases. They're not taking any patients. They're not doing anything. So it's just a weird, it's just a really weird deal. And then you look at New York City and you see the exact opposite. So I don't know. It's weird times, man.
I think it's weird time for everybody, right? Like, I think that we're all not exactly sure what to do. I think, I was at the hospital just a few weeks ago with my mother-in-law. She had taken a terrible fall, and I just happened to be there, and just a group of circumstances that put me in that place, and it was just like we were speaking of. There was really nobody knew what to do, and nobody knew what was going on, and I think the weird part is I think that in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, our basic racing communities area, I think we have to be very thankful just for what we've been able to do. I mean, we haven't had the terrible amount of affected people in the racing deal, and I think we just continue to trudge on, and I think that's where the racer is resilient. He my customers are the most resilient customers that there are in the world. They've been through floods, they've been through destruction, they've been through whatever. They keep coming back over and over again, and I think this will be the same. And I'm appreciative for them. I've had so many phone calls from so many different people that definitely want this to be over, and definitely want all of us to continue on the way that things used to be. Now, do I think that will happen? I don't. I don't think it will ever be the same. I've been through this 3 or 4 times. I don't want to say how old I am because I seem older than I actually am, but like, this will change things, and that happening, like, I think we all have to be cognizant, and all have to try to help each other to try to get the best outcomes that we can for the racing community as it continues on.
Right. Speaking of being old, you were just telling me the other day how things went in 1918 when you had the Spanish flu. So I mean, you are pretty old.
I've been my grandparents and my family have prepared me for this my entire life. I couldn't explain to you or explain to anybody listening, Langley, how fortunate I feel that I am, just because I was raised by men and women that were misers, and I don't mean this as a bad, but they just anticipated things like this happening every 10 or 15 years. My grandfather's been dead a couple of years, and I can vividly remember he was definitely a great spot in my life. I can definitely remember him explaining to me how this would happen and how the Great Depression happened and how the Spanish flu happened and how my aunts and uncles, my great aunts and uncles had to be quarantined and things, it was different. And that's one of the things that I think has given me an advantage for this. I can tell everybody listening that Performance Center is in no problem. If you have a Performance Center car, that I can tell you in a month from now and 2 months from now and 3 months from now, you're still going to be able to get lowers, you're still going to be able to get spindles, you're still going to be like, we are very fortunate. There's many that won't be as fortunate, but we want to help them too. And that's what I think is the difference upon this as opposed to some of those other things years back, right? Like, we all want to go back to the racetrack. We all want to do fun things, no different than RACE22 or Performance Center or Jay Hedgecock or whoever. We all want to go back to the racetrack, and we'll work together to get there. Is it going to be the same? I don't think it's going to be the same. Do you? Do you think it's going to be the same?
Short term, no. Long term, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, it's a lot of times. As human beings, we're really odd people because your buddy dies, and for a week or two or a month or two, you think about life differently, and then eventually it just kind of goes away. And I hate to say it that way, but I mean it's the truth. I mean, people, you will see a cop going down the road, and you slow up, and then in my case, 30 minutes later, I see a cop in my rearview mirror, and apparently I didn't slow up. So it's just how it works. So I think eventually, we kind of go back to normal temporarily. I think we have a new normal almost. And that kind of leads me into, you're talking about the businesses and what it's going to do to businesses. I think we're going to lose some businesses. We're going to lose some people. Some people are going to have to, shut things down, if this goes on for too long. I mean, I think right now everybody's fairly safe. You know what I mean? As this continues to go on, we've basically, the country, we know that the country's probably going to be locked down until the end of the month. I suspect it'll be longer than that, but
maybe more. I was in on a particular phone call the other day with some people from New York City and a couple people from upstate Connecticut that have some pretty decent security clearances, and they believe we're going to be locked down until June, July, possible. Right, so we just have to make sure that we all maintain the social distancing requirements and all try to do what we can do, because this could be a while, right? Like we see cases starting to go down, we see all these other things, but I still think it'll be a little bit, right, before we just lose all the restrictions and are able to go back to business as usual.
Yeah, I think for sure, and who knows what as far as like especially for racetracks and touring series and stuff. I mean, who knows what what that's going to be like. I mean, because we go into this deal. We kind of went through this deal where they kind of lowered the number of people that were allowed to gather, and eventually basically got it to none. And here we are. Now I think when they start to open back up, I think it's going to go in the other direction. I think first they're going to say, all right, well, groups of 50's okay, and groups of 100's okay, and groups of 500's okay, and different things like that. I think that's what's gonna transpire. So. And oddly enough, every racetrack finds themselves in a different category. Bowman Gray, they're going to have to wait until major sports opens back up. You know what I mean? Because they have major crowds. I mean,
right?
It's a whole different world, for them than it is for most racetracks. I mean, I'm not going to single out any racetracks, talking about fan count or whatever. I mean, we when I have events at Franklin County, I mean we're anywhere from I think probably 600 to 4,000 on a great day. You know what I mean? So I think that we're gonna see different racetracks open from at different times. I think that and I think a lot of it'll be based on where the people who own them or promote them are in life. You know what I mean? I feel like if
Well, let's get into that. Hold on. I think the racer wants to know. Like, let's get into that. Where do you think he is? Where do you? That's what's intriguing to me about each part of where each racetrack is. So, I mean, I think you and I talked about it a little bit, maybe yesterday or the day before, but I think each racetrack is in a unique place, and the racer himself is going to have to make sure that he has some kind of patience as to what the racetrack itself is doing. Do you not agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think that's where you're going to get a lot of guys traveling to places that they've never been before because they're going to be Jones in the race, and their local track may be one of the ones that has to take a while. I mean, let's say you're a guy who races at Bowman Gray. If you're a guy who races at Bowman Gray, they're probably going to be the last to open if they open. I mean, they're in a really tight window there. Given that they have to be vacated before football starts. So, they're in a different position than say, South Boston. But South Boston's still in a different position because they're owned by Pocono. The family that owns Pocono also owns South Boston. So they're in a little bit different position. So what I think that a lot of what's going to dictate them is going to be, what happens with major sports. Now, will they be able to open before that? I don't really know the answer to that. But I think they're dictated by that, and in this region in particular, there's another variable that goes beyond the racetrack owner or the promoter or whatever. What does NASCAR say? There's so many NASCAR sanctioned tracks in this area. We probably have more NASCAR sanctioned tracks in this immediate 4-state area here than they do anywhere in the country. So right now NASCAR has dictated to the tracks that they can't operate until
100%.
May 3rd or something. So
Yep.
what does NASCAR say? Does NASCAR, because they're not able to run on the grand scale with the upper series, do they say, well, we don't want you guys operating either? And then there becomes another variable. Okay, so does that track say to themselves, okay, well, I'm just going to run non-sanctioned events? And beyond that, what are the repercussions of that? Does NASCAR say, well, you know what? You wanted to run those races non-sanctioned.
So now you go ahead. Right.
You
I
just
agree
be
with
non-sanctioned the rest of your life.
That's it. That's it.
It's man, there's a whole lot of things that go into this, and there's a whole lot of.
I think my biggest thing that I would tell you, and I would tell all the people listening, is I just think that we need to make sure that we take care of each other and do the best that we can, and we try to support each local racetrack. Each local racetrack has its own entity. They have its own group of rules, assessments that they can do. We need to try to still support them in any way we can, whether it's video, you know what I mean? Whether it's
Right.
like the little things. Because if we don't support them, and if we don't support that small business that sells us tires, they were giving me a hard time about this the other day. But like, I think we got to support everybody. I think everybody from the guy that sells gas to the guy that sells tires to the guy that sells body panels, like, we have to at some point try to figure out how to help them, because everybody in this time is hurting, and it's just at what level you're hurting at. So there's a lot of businesses that people have been very, very fortunate. My business, Performance Center Racing Warehouse, is one of them, right? Like, we've been very fortunate, but there's a lot of others that haven't. So is one better than the other? I don't believe so. But what I do believe is that without all of them, we can't function. So I think we got to figure out what we can do for the guy selling tires, for the guy selling gas, for the guy selling whatever that's part of our industry that we can. Advertising.
Right.
Like, I don't think people realize, and I'll say it because you won't, because you're just you. But like, RACE22 operates on advertising expense.
Right.
If everybody says we don't want to advertise anymore, then who wins or who loses? I enjoy going to race22.com, looking for some articles and seeing what's happening and catching the new news. And what's intriguing to me is that I worry so much in my heart that people don't patronize even a small amount. It doesn't have to be big, right? Like, patronize a small amount. Buy a ball joint. Buy a whatever.
Right.
If you think that I'm just a rich guy that nobody, cool, but buy it from somebody else. Like, we have to all figure out how to band together to make this work. And the rules are changing every hour, so I think it makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's extremely different times, and like for us, we have a handful of full time advertisers who have so far continued to pay their
Which, for
bills.
the record, I'm not one.
Uh,
Tell them. I mean, they all think I give you all this money, but for the record, I'm not that guy.
uh,
I'm not.
that's true.
I give you the
That's
least
true.
amount of money than anybody gives you.
That's probably true.
That's
But
it.
the thing about it is so and it's really the way we had messed up on our end. We structured the way we did things poorly for this instance. Like
Yes.
under normal business, we would have been fine, but in this instance, we actually hurt ourselves by some of the things we did. But that doesn't matter. I'm not crying. I'm not crying about that. It doesn't make any difference. We'll be here when it's over with. We'll be here, and
You will.
and we'll be
You will.
rocking and rolling,
100%.
and so it'll be all be good. So hopefully, But hey, if anybody wants to buy some hero cards or some T-shirts or
That's
something,
it.
I got plenty of them for sale. So, but anyways. So, we talked about, the tracks there, touring series kind of falling under the same thing, past, finally canceled this weekend's Easter Bunny race, I think last Friday or Saturday, which, affects us. I started the mini stock tour, which is a whole nother thing. This past winter, boy, I picked the wrong year. I told somebody this the other day. I picked the wrong year to go all in. I mean, like this winter, I created some debt for myself. And bought some things.
That's good for you
spent.
because you're a cheap ass anyway.
Well,
Let's get that on. Let's
well,
get
I
that
mean-
on there. You're a tightwad anyway. I'm glad you created a little debt for yourself.
I probably between debt and the money that I spent this winter, I'm probably about $30,000 in, and I ain't turned a single dollar. Okay,
Scared money
so,
can't win. Let's go.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I'm not complaining. Like I told another guy. Another guy said, "Man, I feel bad for you." I said, "Well, don't feel bad for me. Everything that I bought, I was smart enough to know that I could sell it when I was done, if I had to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yep.
so we'll be okay. I mean, eventually. I mean, as long as racing returns at some point, we'll be fine. So, but it's
Which
just
it will. Which it will.
It's just
We know it will.
yeah, if sure it will. But wrong. I definitely picked the wrong year to go all in during the winter. I can tell you that much for sure. But hey, we'll come out the other side at some point. But we've talked a little bit about the tracks in the series, and the industry businesses. We which we are. One. They're obviously going to be affected. Greatly by this. Some of them I've talked to. They're just they're being creative. I mean, I guess got. Michael and Lee Falk down there. Those guys have been
Very
doing
proud
those
of them.
sneeze
Very
guards.
proud of them.
Which is really cool. Very good. Way to keep themselves going. I believe there's some other businesses down your way that's kind of
Yeah,
done
but
the
they're
same
not
thing.
even making money off it. Let's be really clear about what they're doing here. Just because I think it deserves a mention. Like, they're not making money off of this. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with what's happening, Michael and Lee Falk have, now that we can't race, they've kind of started this little company that they design basically plastic sneeze type guards, breath guards, whatever you want to call them, that they help protect businesses. And what I want everybody to know about this, what touched me so much about what they're doing, is that they're not charging anyone. Like, they're not making money off of this. I have a couple other friends that are building and designing very similar things, but they're making money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're making money off of it, and I'm okay with that. Please, as a free market capitalist, I don't want anybody to think that I'm ever against anybody making any money.
Sure.
But what I want everybody to know is how crazy special what Michael and Lee Falk are doing is. Michael and Lee Falk are the people that people don't think about. They may be the guys from Florida that don't obscure to the late model stock car world, or they don't have the $1 million revenue that everybody else has. But here's what I'm going to tell you: like, them two dudes are just salt of the earth. If you need help, them are the guys that you can go to for help. And I think that there's somewhere attributed to why their business is so successful, just because they're not always looking to squeeze the dollar. They're very transparent as what's happening. And I think now's the time where you're getting ready to see the people that really talk the talk, or the people that talk the talk and are full of crap. Let's be honest with it, right? Like, I mean, I talked to Michael the other day. They've given almost $15,000 worth of stuff to people.
It's awesome, man.
Like, that's astronomical, right? Like, and that was in a week. That was in a week.
Right.
How can you not be proud to be associated with Lee Falk Racing when they're not getting paid? But they saw a need. They saw a local group that needed help of people that really cared, and they didn't be like, well, can we squeeze 150 out of these people? They were like, no, let's go. Let's just help them. And I think there's a lot more stories like that than we know.
Oh,
does that make sense? Like, I think, but they're one example of. It's interesting the people that are successful in racing seem to be also those people that are successful when there is a need. They're not trying to squeeze it for $5. Does that make sense? They're not. They're giving it away. They called me. They're calling everybody they can to squeeze for money so that the consumer doesn't have to pay. And I applaud that.
Right.
How do you not applaud that?
I'm with you,
especially
man.
now, right? Especially now.
Right. I'm with you. I mean, it totally. They've made a good move in a tough time. And definitely they're good people, and I was
and not for profit. That's what made me the proudest.
Right.
Not for profit.
And
right? Like not for profit.
Those guys are so great. We had them on our radio show live last year.
Sure.
And I was watching some of the clips from that the other day, and man, I tell you what, Michael Falk's funny. Lee Falk is hilarious. Okay, I mean that dude is. They are just great, man. I could listen to Lee Falk stories every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Okay, because they're just so good. But
he was one of the originals. There was a lot of people when I first bought Performance Center 10 years ago that basically told me to piss off. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about what I knew, my family, nobody. The customer base, they didn't care about any of that. What they cared about was what they needed to do. And Michael and Lee Falk have been so good, not just in the financial basis, but in the fact of, I sat in the parking lot of the grocery store last week for an hour and 30 minutes because Lee Falk wanted to talk.
Right.
And that's it. Like, yeah. I don't think people understand. Like, they get it. It's not about that fender should be 129. It's about how do we make this feel better? And I think it leads to some of their telling the truth leads to why they've had as much success as they've had. Does that make sense? Like they're not telling you bring me $5,000 and I'm going to make you a superstar.
Right.
They didn't tell us that on the podcast. Remember? I mean, we sat
exactly.
there and the guy was like, listen, these are the things you need to do. I appreciate their honesty.
Right.
Right?
It's definitely a refreshing approach compared to what
yes.
is going on other places.
Correct.
So, but let's not spend all day talking about that. Kudos to them, though. 100%
no, for sure.
Home
yep.
run. I don't want to. I want to try to keep us, as tight as I can here because I want to.
No, for sure.
I don't want us to go because me and you, we could probably sit here and talk for about 3 hours and
we
not even remember
do.
that
Isn't
we're
that
on.
What we usually do? Or
yeah, yeah. And we at some point we'll forget that we're recording and we'll say some really
say something bad and we'll both be in jail. Right.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Very, very likely. Some of the things that's been going on, since this has started, and I'm glad that we're getting this this podcast going. We are going to try to go live. It's some technical difficulties on my end is why we're not actually live today, but that's okay. We'll get that all
keep going.
squared
we'll
away.
Keep going. We'd like to do this every day. I would like to do it every day.
Yeah. At least 5 days a week. I don't know about 7.
I mean, everybody. We got sponsors that need their voice out there. We have people that are interested in iRacing that need their voice out there. We have many different demographics that we have to give a platform to. And I appreciate RACE22 for letting us do it.
Absolutely, man. And for us, I'm gonna be honest with you, boy. This I underestimated this deal when it started, and that's part of the reason why we're just now starting this podcast. Is if you've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of people have, because I mean they're looking for something to do. Man, RACE22 hasn't had very much content since this started, and the reason being is. when this started, I was like, all right, because we're kind of programmed. I've got content sitting and waiting right now for when racing gets back up and going. Like we got a couple stories from South Boston because it was going to be their lead-in week. When this all really started. So we got a couple stories there that we want to put out there, but man, do I want to use it up now and then have nothing when we come back? So it's been a really hard. Been really hard to decide how to do that, and there's just been so many things going on, and we haven't really even discussed the fact that I was able to, right before this happened, I was able to acquire Late Model Racer magazine. Of course, everybody knows Greg Murto put his heart and soul into that, and he passed away earlier this year, and his wife Meg and I, started talking, and we worked that deal out, and I'm excited to keep that going, and here we are, this deal, I went ahead and announced that thing, and put it out there, and then here I'm sitting here. I can't get a hold of half of the businesses that I need to because, a lot of them that did business with that don't do business with RACE22, or haven't in the past. And, so I don't have the, proper contacts. So, working through all that, I'm still hoping that at the end of this month that we're able to put out a magazine. That's, a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Yeah, but,
who knows whether that's going to happen.
I would like to just speak for me and for many others. Like, I'm appreciative for you doing that. I think that's a great thing for, Late Model Racer magazine to carry on. I know it's something that I enjoyed. I know it's something that he and the family basically enjoyed, and I want to applaud you for taking on that. I would have loved to take on that, but you and I talk once a week, and I definitely want you and everybody listening to know that I'm not smart enough to take on a magazine of that collaboration. So I want people to know that I appreciate you taking on that huge that's a huge undertaking, and I think you'll figure it out. I just think that it's very difficult in this time, in this frame of people's mind, to take it over. So I think you'll do a great job, just like you do in everything else. I just think you got to figure out how to do it, right? And the bad part is that things are changing on an hour by hour basis. So right, like, so it's not like I can even persecute you for. I mean, it's just is what it is, and I think Late Model Racer magazine will be unbelievable. I think it's for an addition to RACE22 and the things that you already do, and the legendary stuff that he's already built. I think it's a perfect fit, and I just think we got to get back on level ground where we can do it again to the scope that you're used to doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it falls into my wheelhouse. With RACE22. We have over the last 11 or 12 years or however long we've been going with RACE22.
It don't matter. Nobody listens to RACE22 anyway. Ain't nobody got to get crazy.
but as for the time we've been doing that, we've mainly only covered late model stock car racing, in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. But with this acquisition, we're probably going to venture a little more into pro and super late model racing. Obviously, the magazine we're going to keep a very similar format. We're going to cover stuff all over the country. Nothing's going to change there, but RACE22 may see some changes, see some increased coverage from different places. So. But it was one of those things. I really me and Craig had talked about me taking over the magazine one day, kind of jokingly.
Listen,
a couple
there's
of years
no
ago.
other. I'll interrupt you right here. I'll break in on you just because I want you to know. Listen, there's no other person that deserves to run that magazine like you've done. I think you've done a great job up to this point in your career. I think there's absolutely nobody else that could do the job for the family that you could do, and I applaud you taking that on. I'm going to play a different perspective on it because I don't maybe the outside guy doesn't understand the amount of work that goes into to a magazine.
It's insane.
I didn't understand, and that's why I give you as much garbage as I give you. But like, I want the normal person listening to this podcast or to this show to understand it. It's a big deal. It is a big deal to produce a magazine of that magnitude, right? Like, we're not talking about something that's smaller, right. And we're not talking about a gentleman that was taken lightly. He did it very well, and me knowing you as well as I know you, you're not going to do it any less well, right? Like, you'll not do it before you'll do it less well, and that's where I think the win is. And I personally, in my heart, believe that the listener or the viewer of the magazine will definitely take that into consideration when he's working to do what he can do. And I'm not canceling my subscription. I know that.
Right. I'm charging you a whole lot more for your subscription than other people
And
are getting,
you
but
always do. At least we're consistent.
Anyways, don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but if you want some information on Late Model Racer, check out our Facebook page. It's under Late Model Racer magazine. We're trying to get that thing back up and going. Hopefully, even if we miss our mark at the end of this month, which I don't anticipate at the moment, but if we miss our mark, we'll try to get it next month. And as soon as racing resumes, we can rock and roll with that, so it won't make any difference. So, a lot of things going on because of this coronavirus, a lot of changes in, scheduling and races being canceled or postponed or, some of them are just, some people are just sitting back going, what the heck do we do? I talked to a racetrack, I guess I'd call them promoter, the other day. They don't own the facility, so I'll call them a promoter. I talked to them the other day, and, they asked me, they said, well, what would you do? I said, well, you haven't seen me posting anything on the Franklin County stuff anyways, because, I don't know what to do. I don't know what, nobody knows when this is going to start back and all that, so it's really tough. But I have seen, I did see today, Speed 51 put out the story today that Bristol has rescheduled the U.S. Short Track Nationals. Unfortunately, they couldn't have picked a worse date. They actually rescheduled to the day of the Martinsville late model stock car race, which just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I get it, man. I'm in the business of racing in so many facets that I get it. That might have been the only date for them, and whatever. I understand. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but man, I just can't think of, given the fact that they're 3 hours apart, I just can't. And crew members, work for super late model teams and work for, late model stock teams. So it's going to split everybody up. And there's people that were going to run both of those events, and now they've got to pick one. And I mean, just to me, it just couldn't have been worse. Of course, maybe they'll get lucky, and unlucky for us, maybe they'll get lucky and the Martinsville late model race will be canceled, but I don't anticipate that. But anything's possible, man. We live in a very weird time. I mean, anything and everything's subject to get canceled, postponed. I mean, you look at the Olympics have been moved a year. The I don't know, some of these other bigger events in other sports. I don't particularly pretend like I know a lot about other sports, but I've seen that they've been moving events, major events, and to next year. So I mean, that could happen to us.
I think we just got to do all what we can do in a group, right? Like the only thing I can ask, and I'm asking this in a way that is just basis of me, is that I just want people to be fluid. There's going to be a lot of changes in the next, I'm going to say 3 to 6 months. Things are going to change. People are going to stop doing things they said they were going to do. People are going to not do things they said they were going to do. Like, I think we have to be fluid. I think we have to maintain our composure as a group of late model stock car racers who I furthermore would like to say how proud I am of. Right, like the normal late model stock car racer, he's not in trouble. This is what I keep telling my friends in the big business world. The late model stock car racer of today is not in trouble. He hasn't spent millions of dollars. He hasn't done anything stupid. He was ready to go racing. He's now not able to.
Right. So, most of them don't have huge overheads. They don't have a lot of full-time employees.
I mean, they keep my friends in the real world or the outside world or the business world or the Fortune 500 world, they call me, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. This guy owes me $100 million. This guy owes me this. My problem is this. The late model stock car world is resilient. Right. Like, this is a group of people that have been through floods, storms, plagues. They go. Like, Performance Center, just use it as an example because I won't talk about others. I will only talk about myself. Performance Center is not going out of business because it doesn't owe anybody any money.
Right.
The business is owned. The building is owned. Like, the employees, they're at home having a great time. Some of them come into we are in a great position here as long as we stick together. It's been something that I've been preaching to my son for the last couple weeks. Together, it will be very difficult for anybody to beat us. together as a family. And this is where I think the late model soccer community comes together as a huge family, whether it be chassis builders or racetracks or whatever. Together, it will be very difficult for them to beat us because we're pretty tight. Right? Like, we may all talk junk and want to punch each other, and like I might want to fight, whatever, but like it's just the way that it is. We all are here together, and I think that's where the win comes. I think that's where the win comes over these big series, because these big series have big overhead, and we'll be okay.
Right.
Well, if Performance Center has to figure out some sick way to get RACE22 to put on some late model stock car races, we'll do it. We'll do it. Right. That's it. Yep. They together they will not beat us. They haven't beat you at Franklin County. They haven't beat Kevin Piercy at Hickory. They haven't beat. It's not the way we're going to do it. We don't go out like that. We try to save our funds, and we try to do the things and live the conservative lifestyle. And I want people to know that I talked to Kevin Piercy a couple times, especially in the last 24 hours. And he was adamant to me from Hickory Motor Speedway. And I talked to Tri-County, just so that we're clear. It's not this. These people are adamant that this will not beat them.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the racer needs to know that.
Yeah.
Right? I think the racer needs to know that Tri-County Motor Speedway is not going anywhere. Like, they're not closing up. This is going to affect things, and they can't test, and they can't do this, but it's not going anywhere.
No, I agree with you 100%.
And I talked to Kevin Piercy, and Hickory is not going anywhere. Like, Kevin Piercy will still be promoting races at Hickory Motor Speedway in 6 months from now. What I want to ask from everyone is the more we can help each other, the better off we can be.
Yep.
And whether that's with promotion from RACE22 or you need a spindle from Performance Center, or it doesn't matter. Like, you need hero cars, doesn't matter. Like, right. It's not even a sales basis. I just want people to know that with each other, together as a late model stock community, whether you're a Jay Hedgecock car, a Forrest Reynolds car, a Townsend car, it doesn't matter. We are all going to work together and make it through this. That's it. Yep. Together, there's nobody who can beat. We'll still get 15, 20 cars to show up, and whether I got to go down fighting, because I'll pay to put the shit on mine. I don't care. Like, I think that we can make it, but individually they can beat us. But together as a group, I don't think they can beat us.
I'm with you, and to that end, I hope that race fans, that I know really want to see a race right now. Whenever these tracks open back up, and even if you got to travel a little ways to go see a race, man, go do it. Whatever you can do to support these racetracks.
Sit in the corner.
Right
Sit
now.
Sit in the corner. Pay them $20. Sit in the corner. Pay them $20 and have a great time.
These racetracks.
Live feed it with your phone.
Well, oh gosh, you're going to start a whole nother thing with these racetracks that don't want that to happen. But I'm with you.
Right?
I
understand. There's many good ones.
No.
Come on, let's talk about this. This would be a good time to talk about this.
Let's not drive. Let's not go down that rabbit hole right now.
No, how about the people that listen? I mean, there's racetracks still spending money to improve the facility, still spending money that would be their operating capital just because they love to race.
No,
whether it's a good idea or not a good idea, that's completely objective. But they're spending money because their love for the sport is so big that they don't know what else to do.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these SBA loans that get spent racing, and I'm glad of that. Actually, I'm glad that some of them will do that, and the stimulus checks, the $1,200 or whatever the amount is, and some of these unemployment checks, I'm sure they're going to get spent at racetracks, and that's A-okay with me. So, I want to get to a couple of more points here before we wrap this up. I mean, like I said earlier, you and I can talk for 2 or 3 hours, no problem, nonstop, and I don't want to do that to people because, man, the problem is
hear what we have to say.
Well, the problem is we could talk for 3 hours straight every day, nonstop, and not have any problems.
And we do most.
And I want to try to limit this to an hour-ish, and we're about 45 minutes in right now, so let's try to narrow down here. One thing I did want to mention was you know, and I don't know if you even have an opinion on what you think's going to happen here, but the NASCAR, national points deal, obviously is kind of in jeopardy here. I don't know whether they're going to cancel it outright or whether we'll get to resume racing. And I think the timeline matters here. I think that if we're racing in May, then they resume it. Maybe they extend it into November or December or whatever they do. But man, what do you think's going to happen here with the national title? And do you think this gives more people an opportunity to compete for the national title, or do you think it gives less people an opportunity to compete for it?
I mean, my big thing is that I think that the national title, just being as highly revered as it is, I think that the powers that be will definitely try to protect it as much as possible, right? Like, it's the holy grail. It's the thing that the guys have searched for, the Lee Pulliams, the Philip Morrises, that they've crashed each other for, if that's anything, right? Like, I mean, that's what it's all about. So the intriguing part to me is I don't want to be. I'm so appreciative that I'm not NASCAR, right? Like, I think a lot of people are they did this wrong or they did that wrong, but I don't think they understand, right? Like, I just want to look at it from another perspective, on the basis of there's a lot that hinges on what's happening. I'm so appreciative on a daily basis that I just own my little 3 companies and I get to make the determinations of what happens at them and nothing else. But I think it will all be based on what they say they're going to do, right? Are you going to do a short schedule? Are you going to do a 10 race average? Are you going to do dual races every week? How are you going to do things, right? Like, and I think that will be manipulated because that's what racers do, right? Like, we're a couple weeks ago, I sat in a meeting up at DRP with the NASCAR officials and the Cars Tour officials and Lynn Carroll and Shane Laws and all the legends of the sport, all the chassis builders were there and all the racetracks were there. And what I came and took out of that meeting is there's some big things here. A lot of people don't understand it, but like there's some big things. Like, which way are you going to be? And your decision affects hundreds of people. Not just one person, not just 5 people, not just the 20 people that race at your racetrack, but I just wish people would have the empathy to understand that when these decisions are made about what's happening, that there's really not malice involved. Langley didn't try to figure out what to do with the 602s with your mini stock touring series because you didn't want to make 10,000 or didn't care about 5. It didn't have anything to do with money. What it had to do with trying to make the best decisions for your person racing at your racetrack or your event. And I just want everybody to look at that from an outside perspective and not judge them solely on what they did for this thing that, man, well, we bought these passes or this thing we bought. It's not that. It's how we get to where we need to be a year from now and 2 years from now. And I'm not saying that they're going to get it right. Listen, I get things wrong every day, hour by hour, minute by minute. What I want people to know is we try to do the best that we can do, and that's it. That's it. If I wronged you, call me. Tell me I'm a pile. Right? Like, I'll do everything I can. Right. Just be somewhat subjective to the things that are going to come. Be fluid. Be ready for everything. I want to flip it a different way I want people to take this time and teach their kids. Teach their kids. Like, this is where I think the racing ends up changing. I've sat and thought about this hours upon hours upon hours. I am able to teach my son more things in the last 3 days than I've been able to teach him in years.
Right.
This is when racing carries on to the next generation. So instead of being pissed that NASCAR didn't do what they wanted for the national championship, Kingsport didn't do what you wanted for fit your 10 race schedule, think about it this way. Take your grandkids or your kids that you normally wouldn't get to spend time with and like in 5 years, they're not going to give a damn that we couldn't race for a month here. Like, teach them how to race. Teach them how to take their cars apart. Teach them how to put it together. Teach them how to run valves. Teach them, right? Like, this is where I think it comes. I think it comes now because we can explain to them how the next generation needs to present themselves to this sport.
Right.
And I think it's a game changer for us. I think it's a complete game changer. It's not even about the money. It's not about any of it. Like, this is a group, an audience, and I know you don't like to talk about it, but we'll segue into it, of iRacers. Right? Like, this is a different group. Take that time, the old school guys, the Kerry Bodenheimers of this world, who has been a mentor to me, the Greg Marlowe's, even Jay Hedgecock to a point, right? These guys have been mentors to me. They've been talking for years and years and years and years about how the sport is changing, things are changing, things are getting different. Take these opportunities to take your 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16-year-old grandkids, your sons, your daughters, teach them how to work on their race cars. That will pay us dividends 5 years from now.
No, I agree with you 100%, for sure. No doubt about it. And you know, you mentioned iRacing. I don't have any. I don't have any issues with iRacing in particular. We don't cover it on RACE22 because, well, it's not real racing. But, you know, and that's as far as I'm going to go in that. And I have no problems with iRacing. I have iRaced myself in the past, so.
Me too.
You know,
I'm no good, but I tried it.
I don't have any issues with it, and I'm glad that it's able to fulfill a hole for people in this, you know, different time that we're living in. But you know, it's just not my thing. But anyways,
I want it to be my thing. It's not my thing either, but I want it to be my thing. I want people to reach out to me and say, "Listen, I'm an idiot," which they do on a fairly regular basis. I'm cool with. Like, I'll sanction a late model stock car deal. Let's go.
right.
Like, I think this is going to be the time where we see the people that really care about squeezing the 150 or the 200 or the 225 or the 500 out of late model stock car racing, and the people are like, let's go. Let's go. This isn't about money anymore. This is about our family's health, our families in general, and keeping everybody we can safe. So if we need to do things that are on a certain perspective to not make money, to not do whatever, call me. I'm in. I'll give you my cell phone number on here. If not, hit me on Facebook. Do whatever you need to do. Like, let's go.
Right.
I think this is a weird time that nobody knows exactly what to do, but I don't either.
Right.
Let's figure it out.
I agree. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, the biggest news probably so far of you know, this whole downtime. Of course, Motor Mile Speedway announced last week that they would not be racing this year, which you know, I wrote an opinion article.
You called it
on that.
You called it. Like, I would love to be able to talk junk like you, but I want people to know the truth. Like, Langley Austin called this a month and a half ago. Like, I can say this on the podcast with as many people listening as possible. Langley Austin called this 60 days ago. 60 days. Like, you're correct. I think that the week will definitely go away right here. I think people will get exposed.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure that it's I'm not sure that that's a matter of weak or strong. But I think that
me neither. But the problem is this: I think it's a matter of sacrifice, because there's been, and this is something that needs to be talked about, and a lot of people don't talk about it. There's been many years, and your clientele doesn't because you protect them from it. But there's been many years that RACE22 has not financially made money.
Sure.
But you persevered on for the love of the sport. There's been many years where Performance Center has not made money. But I love this thing. And it will continue on. And I got to tell you, I bet you that we could get Diaz on the phone. And I bet you there's been many years where Southern National hasn't made money and Hickory Motor Speedway hasn't made money, but they've persevered on.
Sure.
So So those are sacrifices that I think need to be brought to the forefront. I'm not bad mouthing them, but
Right.
if you couldn't see this coming, you didn't really look, right? They were gonna go, and that's it. Not a financial, not that they didn't have money. I'm not saying that, but it's a sacrifice for sure.
No, I for sure, no doubt about it. But in Motor Mile's case, there's so many variables there, and I kind of covered it in my opinion piece. If you haven't read it, be sure to
Yeah,
go
I
and
did.
do that.
It was all right. It was
Almost,
all right. Your opinion pieces are okay. I don't think they're great, but they're great.
well, just so you know, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the audience listening. So, but the thing about it is, they were in a tough position to try to make things work as it was, and I think that them having to cancel, maybe is a good thing for the future. There, you just never know. You never know what the circumstances there will be. Moving forward, but. They canceled the season, and I know a lot of racers will be looking for a lot of places to go race. So that's
Come to Hickory.
yeah.
Come to Tri-County.
Well, I
Listen,
think there's a lot of places that they're going to go. I mean, area around.
You got a performance center car. If you call me, and we'll find you a place to race. Like there's a lot of great racetracks. I'm appreciative for Motor Mile doing what they did, but if you can't find, there's some really good places to race. If you can't find one, you call me. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's there's a lot of places that these guys will deflect to. I'm sure. From South Boston to Kingsport, Franklin County, Hickory. Anything around. I think these guys will. Will deflect to over the course of this whatever year of racing we get to have here. So
what do you really think about that? We talk about that. I think we should touch on that. How much do you think we'll get? You're a pretty smart guy. You're more in the know than you give your own self credit for. Like, when do you think we'll go back?
I mean, I think that's really. I think that's a really difficult. Really difficult thing to timeline. I think that, right now, I think that a lot of people think we're going to be racing early May. I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, listen, I wish it was tomorrow. So, I'm not, not down in anybody for being hopeful of that, for sure. But, it could be, May, it could be June, it could be July, it could be August. It could be, really any time, honestly. You got the pound going over there, I hear.
Yeah, my wife, who I love, I think many of you know, my wife, definitely better looking than me. So a couple days ago, she was driving home from work, and there was a dog beside the road, and she was so worried that the dog was going to get hit. She picked the dog up and had no collar on it, and she brought it home, and now we have weirdly accepted it in my home. And I will tell you that I tried to check if it had a chip. I tried to do as many things possibly as I could do to try to get it back to its original owner. Langley, being a dog person, I think you would understand this. But it's mouthy. Like, I think it's from just maybe the tip of Mexico or something. Like, it's a little southern Mexican dog, and it's definitely has come in and run the entire show. So it's been with us for 2 weeks, and we've been trying to figure out what to name it, and something possibly to do with the coronavirus, something to do with many of these things. But I mean, we're just appreciative, man. I that's what I want people to know more than anything, right? Like, I know people think maybe we can't all identify together, but this is the time where I think we all can identify together. We're all kind of under the same box of things where we have to do things that are out of our comfort zone, whether it be not being able to take a dog to somewhere, right? Like, or not being able to race where we want to race. I just want people to know that I think these are the times when we all grab ourselves, we grab our neighbors, we grab our friends, and we say, how do we do this as best we can? How do we achieve something that we're not used to achieving in a way that we're not used to achieving it, and we go forward. And I think that's what's going to make this deal great. That's why I invested the money that I invested in late model stock car racing, because I know that late model stock car people are resilient. Whether it's chassis builders or body manufacturers or motor builders, like I firmly believe that in 3 months or in 6 months, this is going to be the same game that we had. And my biggest thing is different. I want people to know that if I'm going to call it out for you, if RACE22 or if Performance Center can help people in any way, that's the way we win. That's how we've won this far. Whether you're watching or not, that's how we've won this far. We help each other. Whether it's Marcus and I text like Richmond. It's not about the dire stabbing each other. We got to make this work as a group, and let's do it. I think the late model stock. I've never been as happy to be where I am as now. Like, because I think we got a shot. I think we got a real shot. I think there's a lot of places that don't have a shot, and I think we're in good shape. We just have to wait it out.
I agree. Well, we've passed the hour mark, so I want to wrap this up. You've been selling us on, being good to each other and taking care of one another, and I'm certainly appreciative of that. Any last thoughts here?
Just be fluid. There's going to be a lot of change in the next 6 to 12 months. There's going to be a lot of people that are very pissed off. There's going to be some people that this really, really helps. There's going to be other people that this really, really crushes. So be fluid to your neighbor. Understand that you might not know. Understand that you might not know what Tiger Lorenz is going through, or Five Star Bodies is going through, or AR Bodies is going through, or whoever. Understand you might not know. There might be a reason why they can't get your body panels in those couple days. But understand that, and understand the fact that you can either help or be part of the problem. And I hope that you want to help.
Yep.
And if I can help you, call me. 704-500-1294. Call me. Like, I can't give you $1 million. It just can't be that way, but I can help you. I can maybe get you in touch with this guy or get you in touch with this guy. Langley and I do business many, many times and never change a dollar. There's great people in this sport. There's great people in this sport. Like Jack is doing a great deal with the Cars Tour, right? Like Kingsport, they're ready to go, right? I mean, Hickory, they're ready to go. Tri-County's ready to go. If you can test there and squeak out a set of tires and do a few things, do it. You need a set of shocks rebuilt, call RE, call West Page. Let's go. Like, spend a small amount of money with your local guy so that he knows you care. You don't have to spend millions. Well, we can figure this out as a group. Late model stock car people are really resilient. I just don't want them to give up on themselves.
I agree 100%. I had some other thoughts, but gonna kind of...
I ruin them. I always ruin them. I'm that guy.
Gonna kind of end this show on a somber note. Just found out that Blake Morris, son of Philip Morris, passed away today. Obviously, Philip and the family are in our thoughts and prayers. He was a really good kid. I have to admit, I didn't really get to know him until this past year. Went to a race at Dominion. He led some laps there, actually led a good portion of the race, and interviewed him after the race. And I tell you, man, incredible personality. Obviously a huge loss for the family, but a huge loss for racing as well. And just want to extend our thoughts and prayers out to Philip and the family, and just tell them how much they mean to us. Philip is super good guy, and I know a lot of people hate him, and that's okay. I understand how racing works, but super good guy, and such a tough time, man, to lose a child. I can only imagine. So definitely want to close it out with that, and hopefully we'll try to do this again tomorrow. But we'll
keep going. We'll
Absolutely.
keep going. I'm with you. I want everybody to understand that both a great competitor, and I think we need to do all we can to say a prayer for all those people that were affected, either, just even as a son, but know that we can stick together in this thing, and if we can make it to the other side and all be appreciative of each other.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, that'll do it for today's show. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully we'll be back tomorrow with another show, and you can enjoy or not enjoy listening to me and Roger. So see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Langley. Have a great day.